right, and this is my moment to be able to thank Yona. Yona Anawani joined us yesterday, and I got so many nice responses about our conversation about the American Indian influence, especially coming from the New York area through history in the concept of natural rights, the concept of freedom of speech, and many of the facets of the Articles of Confederation. Great stuff. We're going to make a separate video of that. That will be available tomorrow morning, I think. And I'm really looking forward to that. An hour-long, great conversation. And he even played music for us. It was phenomenal. So, okay, everybody, the first thing I'm going to do here, and this is going to be a little bit different of a setup because this is some really serious stuff. And again, you know, it's weird doing this work, and you probably do this in your daily activities for your work or for just whatever is interesting to you in the news. You hear about something and you say, no, I got to do more research on this. I have to find out about this. So let's go to the news notes. And the first thing I want to do actually is show you, we're going to open things in a slightly different way with a map. This is about the South Pars gas fields. All right. So this is what the Israelis and the United States hit today, the world's largest natural gas field. Okay. So you can see here's the Persian Gulf, right? And you can see where this is located. There's Iraq. This is a very, very bad situation. We're going to go with a little bit more here just to show you. You can see where Qatar is. It's at the tip of Qatar. And this thing, controlled by Iran, was hit. So I will tell you, this thing being blasted means that the transportation of natural gas across the planet just got devastated. I don't know what's going to happen to the price within the next few hours, but this is some of the worst possible news that we could have heard since 9/11. So here's the story. We're going to go with RT on this one, show you some of this key video, all right? And then we'll go with my description. Actually, first, before I even do that, I want to give you my reading on it before we get into the video footage. Israeli aggressors bombed an Iranian natural gas facility. This is massive. It is, from my research today, the largest storage facility of its kind in the world. This targeted its civilian infrastructure. It has stopped the supply of natural gas electricity to a large portion of Iraq. It also risks Iran needing to shut down other facilities around Iran for protection. That will drastically reduce natural gas shipping from those areas. And of course, it destroys key cooperative gas arrangements with other Middle Eastern nations that Iran might have had, nations such as Qatar. So here are the details that I found. I went into more details after this bolded area here on the screen. Israeli airstrikes hit the South Pars natural gas field and processing facilities in Asaluye, Bushehr province, Iran, the world's largest gas field shared with Qatar, causing fires, halting gas supplies to Iraq, and disrupting Iran's energy production. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, issued urgent evacuation orders for key Gulf energy sites, in addition to that one, of course, including Saudi Arabia's Samref refinery, Jubail petrochemical complex, UAE's Al Hosn gas field, and Qatar's Masaid petrochemical complex, as well as Ras Laffan refinery. Now, these names, obviously, you know, they'll slip right through the mind like wind on a cold day or something. But this is massive. These are in multiple countries: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. These places, Iran is warning, they're targets now. You targeted and you assisted the United States. You didn't toss the United States out. Now you've got to take some action because the world's largest facility for natural gas just got destroyed. This is going to highly affect Iran's monetary position, but it's also going to highly affect the entire world. Refinery, let's see. The Israeli strikes conducted with U.S. approval escalated regional tensions, triggered Saudi air defenses to intercept ballistic missiles targeting Riyadh, and disrupted global energy markets. So there you have from Al Jazeera, Iraq's electricity ministry says Iranian gas supplies to the country have completely stopped. We're going to go to a little bit of Alistair Crook with Danny Haifong in a moment, but I want to go to some of the key information from RT. Iran accuses the Gulf states, without directly naming them as launch points for the South Pars strike, of enabling the aggression by hosting or allowing U.S.-linked operational bases on their territory and ignoring prior warnings against blind obedience to external U.S.-Israeli powers, and instead of prioritizing national sovereignty. So they stuck with the Americans. Now they're going to get it. The logic is that these energy sites are now fair game because they represent the origin of the aggression with the United States housed in these countries. And they are extensions of U.S. interests. This mirrors exactly how Iran's own energy infrastructure was hit, and they will return that image and hit them like a mirror. This is presented purely by Iran as defensive reciprocity. Attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure will not go unanswered, and they're depicting it not as punishment for the Gulf states independently starting anything. The broader observed effect, economic pressure via oil and gas price spikes, is noted in coverage around the net that I've seen, but is not the primary rationale Iran itself states in these announcements. These statements were issued within hours of the South Pars strike today and include civilian evacuation alerts to the named sites that I mentioned before. So there have been no strikes on Gulf facilities that have been reported as of now, per the latest coverage. So let me give you some of this stuff from Glenn Dyson. An incredible escalation. U.S.-Israeli forces have attacked South Pars in Iran. And I'll show you that it's possible that there is some retaliation. I put that down below. Here is the South Pars facility right here. And that's taken from pretty far away. So that place, probably most of it is unrecoverable. I don't know. I think most of it has been destroyed. I want to go with the Iranian retaliation. Qatar confirms a fire at the Ras Laffan industrial city, the one we mentioned earlier. Ras Laffan port has the world's biggest LNG export facility. So remember, inside Qatar, they already used force majeure to say that they were going to not deliver many of the deliveries promised for LNG all around the world. This is going to make it worse. Here's RT giving us the coverage. So that one, we don't know whether it's confirmed, whether Iran did that with a hit or it was sabotage or it was an accident. But that's inside Qatar, okay? That's a big one. No, that was inside Riyadh. That was inside Riyadh, okay? Then, no, that was inside Qatar. Yep. Now, I want to go with this one. A Saudi missile soars down into Riyadh. Qatar confirms fire. There it is. That's it. Qatar confirms fires at Ras Laffan industrial city. So I'm going to go with that one. I won't skip around too much. There's too much breaking stuff. Then I want to go with this. Here's what Iran has warned. So these are the ones on the map. Iranian official issues evacuation warning for specific Gulf energy sites. All right. So this is what we're looking at here in case this helps you visualize these things. Abraham Aziz, head of Iran's National Security Commission in Parliament, issued a direct warning alongside maps marking potential targets across the Gulf. The warning images identify key sites: Qatar, Ras Laffan, Qatar, Chevron-linked petrochemical complex, Saudi Arabia, the Al Jubail petrochemical complex, and the UAE Al Hosn gas field. Those are the maps. And this is what they said from Iran. Our red lines were clear and you crossed them. Now just evacuate. So I want to go with something that I think presents us with just how important this is. I'm going to play an extended piece. Before I even go with RT, I'm going to play an extended piece for you of Pepe Escobar with Judge Napolitano.
Pepe Escobar, my friend, welcome here. No matter what we are talking about, it's always a pleasure to have the benefit of your insight. Thank you. Before we get to BRICS and before we get to Russia and China, you have some very serious concerns, I think, about the Netanyahu and Trump war getting out of control. What do you know? What do you hear? What are your concerns?
I cannot emphasize enough, Judge, and all of you, our audience, this is it. This is the ultimate escalation moment. So we are beyond any red lines. The latest echo I had from Iran a few minutes ago was, we are ready for total war. And I'm quoting literally.
Now, when
we have been provoked to go into total war. And I'll explain to you now why. Yes, Judge, please.
No, that's what I was going to ask. So without telling me who told you this, you obviously believe it. It's obviously a credible source. What do you know or believe they mean by total war?
Because of what happened a little while ago, in fact, a few hours. I was at my dinner here in Southeast Asia. When I came back, this was exploding everywhere. Trump, Netanyahu together, and under pressure as well from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the Emirates, which are pushing them to go all the way against Iran. They bombed the South Pars gas field in Iran. This is the largest gas field on the planet. And South Pars is linked to the North Dome in Qatar. It's the same geology. So South Pars and North Dome, Iran and Qatar, together, this is the largest concentration of gas and export of gas on the planet. And South Pars, the refinery part of South Pars was bombed today by Israel, US. And that provoked an immediate, for the moment, rhetoric response from Iran. An evacuation order already issued for several installations all across the Gulf. And the list of installations that is going to be bombed in the next few hours. This is, I think it's midnight here in Southeast Asia, it's around 7 to 8 in West Asia, so it's going to be certainly tonight. The Iranians are going to bomb the Samref refinery in Saudi Arabia, very, very large. The Al Hosn gas field in the Emirates, enormous. The Messayed petrochemical complex affiliated with Chevron, by the way, in Qatar. The Ras Laffan refinery phases 1 and 2 in Qatar. This is immensely serious because this is the largest gas terminal on the planet. And the Iranians are saying they're going to bomb that in retaliation. And the refinery in Haifa. That's the full list, which is going to be bombed in retaliation by Iran. And that explains what I heard only a few minutes ago. We are ready for total war because this is the ultimate escalation, because it's not about bombing military targets in Iran anymore. This is about bombing civilian installations and provoking the collapse of the state in Iran. So we are way there. There's no comparison to what was happening until a few hours ago. So this is the.
So I want to pause it there because I want to go back to the classroom. And, even though I know, this is with so many breaking stories and so many things that people feel sudden alarm. And, this is very abstract for some people. They might not, need to get natural gas in the future, but they can imagine all the things that are reliant on natural gas, whether it's, construction or moving with engines or creating fertilizer or whatever it is, right? This is starting to get people pretty nervous. And I think in many ways it's a sort of abstract nervousness. They're sort of wondering how bad it could get, right? A worry, you might say. But in addition to that, I think this is an opportunity to find a lesson out of this, a little bit of light that we can derive. And it isn't comfortable light necessarily. But as we heard Pepe Escobar discuss, we're talking civilian infrastructure. This was an attack on one of the biggest civilian infrastructure facilities on the planet Earth for energy. There is just no denying that. And Donald Trump and Netanyahu, if he's alive, the Israelis and the U.S. conducted this strike, knowing full well what was going to happen. Now, I don't know whether Kevin Hassett was made aware of what they were going to do. I don't know whether Scott Bessent is now whistling Dixie and happy, still happy over more destruction being brought to Iran after he praised trying to destroy their monetary system a few weeks ago. But these sickos, if they were aware of this while they were spouting all this nonsense, knowing what was coming up as part of the agenda on a military side, and I bet they did know, or somebody would have informed them somehow, that's really, really dark. The smiling Cheshire cat grins with the dark knowledge behind them of what is to come. The way that they're going to poison the rivers for everybody. And they're going to just be happy on their love boats. Inside the military side of things, the Department of War, they clearly knew what was going on. And many in the Senate, I think, probably knew if they were on the Intelligence Committee. If they weren't informed of this, then that's a major problem. They have not declared war. They didn't impeach. They didn't try and put Donald Trump away from his office. They left him in there. And this is the result of what they've got. So we need to, I feel it's incumbent on me to bring up three major points. One is the effect of this is going to be disastrous. Really disastrous. Two, the constitutional side of this thing cannot be forgotten. Three, deeper than the Constitution, nobody has a right to tell you you're part of their game, that you got to pay for them going and attacking people, which gets us to the classroom question that I had, which is, it used to be, as I mentioned, it used to be in the time of the chivalrous knights, the times of the monarchists, the times that Tolkien mentions, either he would be an anarchist or a monarchist, because at least if you had a monarchy, you knew who your enemy was, and you weren't given this canard that the government was you, right? And then everybody argues over who's going to control the government for a certain period of time, and then the other people are on the outs and they have to pay for it. It wasn't that, this circular merry-go-round of perpetual predation and taking advantage of people and trying to get control of the machine. At least you knew there was a stark difference between the machine and the people who were forced to work for it, the underlings, the serfs, right? You knew who the monarchy was. You knew who was royally connected to the monarchy. As Parliament started to gain more power and the Industrial Revolution came up, you started to see industrialists tying themselves to the royal blood people by getting special favors passed by Parliament, that sort of stuff. So you saw corporatism, you saw fascism rising, otherwise known as by Adam Smith as mercantilism, when he released in 1776, when he released The Wealth of Nations. So we're coming up to the 250th anniversary of that. So what seems to be a very valuable lesson here, and perhaps you were thinking the same thing, but I think a lot of people, when they hear that, oh, these people attacked civilian infrastructure, they say, well, wait a minute. If the government of state X was reliant on either funds or energy coming from this corporation that, yes, supplies natural gas or electricity or oil or nuclear power to the civilians, but at the same time, it's government run, or it's given a government monopoly, or the government shares in the wealth of it, or whatever, or receives special discounts on it. Where do you draw the line between what is civilian infrastructure and what's government infrastructure now? Right? This is a major problem. Just as I mentioned, the way the terrorists, so-called terrorists, but at least one guy who was captured in New York, the Times Square bomber, he, I think, is emblematic of the ways that people who don't like United States foreign policy and who engage in the blowback, as Ron Paul warned, the way they see America is much the same way as civilians are told they should see America here, which is America is you. You are the government. Now, of course, that's ridiculous. It's absurd. And even if there were a majority rule, it wouldn't be the government. You'd be on the outs for whatever subject it was, right? And that would vary, hour by hour, day by day. You might even change your mind at a certain point. The only way you get true representation is through your own volition, dealing with someone else and hiring someone to represent you. You can never get it within a political situation because that's imposed on people. But the way they try to sell it to people, the little Tupperware party they have for people is, oh, look at this container. It's so-called representative democracy. It's us. It's self-rule. No, it's not. That means I rule myself and nobody else does. That's why I'm an anarchist. So all political institutions run contrary to your free will, right? And it just depends on whether or not you can get in to try to get your free will expressed and protected and not preyed upon, and you'll fight everybody else. So that's part of the problem, because nowadays, those people like the Times Square bomber they asked him, how do you plead? And I've said it many times over the past year. He said, guilty, guilty, 100 times guilty. And if the U.S. government continues to do what it is doing in the Middle East, more American civilians will die. Why? Because they thought that the United States government was a manifestation of the people, just like they tell us here in America, just like the fantasy they give you, right? It comes riding out on unicorns, comes floating across rainbows, right? Whether it's a Terry Brooks novel and you're in the land of Shannara, which he pronounces Shannara, and you're hanging out with Shay and Flick Olmsford and Al-Anon, or it's some other fantasy story like The Wheel of Time, it's not real. But this is one of the major problems, because we can see now, we can open this Tupperware package and see there's a lot of mold inside. And that mold is this constant mixing of government projects for civilian so-called purposes that they say the government's got to handle the infrastructure, right? How many times do we hear that? We've got a rotting infrastructure. So in other words, if an enemy, let's say that there is a declared war and there finally is a real enemy, not the adversaries and enemies they tell us are our enemies without any declaration of war, there can technically be no enemies to the United States. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. But let's say there were a declared war, and on their political world, this anarchist looks into that little crystal ball and sees, oh, I see you declared war in there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did. So you've got an enemy now. That's right. So if the enemy attacks, nuclear power plant that was granted permission to operate and given money by the state government to do it, is that civilian infrastructure or is it government infrastructure? If Iran blasts a hotel that now hosts American military, is that civilian or is it military? The hotel accepted them. Did they tell the other clients who were there, the people staying there, hey, you got some reservations in a place where, yes, you'll probably be targeted? So these lines blur now, because the state has grown. The tentacles of the state have interwoven so much with daily activities and things that people just blithely say, infrastructure. Well, you got to leave that to the government. I thought it was civilian infrastructure. No, the government makes the civilian infrastructure. So what you're saying is that those are valid targets too. That's where we've come. That's what it is. That's why the Kursk Bridge was targeted over and over and over again by Ukraine. Why? Because they look at that as essential for Russia, and they see it as a tactical move to blow it up. Even though it's a civilian bridge, it was built by the government. This is very, very, see, again, there are really major reasons why I'm an anarchist. because all of these things continue to attach innocent people to very dangerous problems, very bleak, black outlooks. And they do it through immoral means in the first place. And it just adds to the questions. So we'll go back now because the rest of this is just key. I can't play it all, but you've got to see some more of this. This is really important, and I hope I'm doing a good job presenting you with a good presentation tonight.
The ultimate escalation. So now it is, for all practical purposes, total war. And Iran said, if you attack our gas infrastructure, our energy infrastructure, we're going to attack all the energy infrastructure of the Persian Gulf. That's where we are now, Judge.
Wow. This is a video of South Pars, Iran. The footage shows the facilities on fire. This is exactly what you were talking about. What did well, you wouldn't know directly, but what do you expect the Americans and the Israelis thought they would accomplish by bombing this? They're only going to wreck the international economy.
Exactly, but they were not thinking about international economy, and they were not thinking about the immense repercussions all across the globe. They are absolutely obsessed in smashing every structure that is now resisting the Iranian state. They tried everything. They killed Ayatollah Khamenei. They bombed everything in sight, according to them, but not what really matters, which are the underground missile stations and drone stations in the eastern and southeastern part of Iran. These are absolutely intact. They could not get their regime change. The whole structure of government, it's now, we were told hours ago, still today, it's not only 4 layers that were first established by Ayatollah Khamenei of replacements in case they are killed, military commanders, provincial leaders, etc. It's 7 layers. So if you kill Larijani, you have Saeed Jalili, which immensely competent, a former supervisor of the Iranian nuclear program. He's going to be the next secretary of the Security Council. He has been appointed today. So it's this absolutely stupid policy of decapitation doesn't work with the system that is completely consolidated and decentralized at the same time, the decentralized mosaic strategy, which now includes decentralized mosaic strategy on attack, total attack in terms of total war against every possible node of U.S.-Israeli presence from Israel to the Persian Gulf, and now includes the energy infrastructure as well. So there's no limit to this. If this happens only tonight, depending on what happens in the next few hours, and we see the extent of the Iranian attacks on this list of especially refineries and energy installations, especially Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, the repercussions for the global economy, we cannot even imagine. For the moment, apparently no. For the moment, the barrel of oil in West Asia is over $150. Tomorrow could be 200, Judge, easily,
wow.
or even more.
Well, that will put tremendous pressure on Trump when people can't fill up their automobiles on pickup trucks in the U.S. for under $150.
Or buy food for, even less than twice what it cost a month before. This is going to be disastrous for everybody on the planet. This is so bad. It's so bad. Let me hop over into Rumble, check in with all of you. Please give it the thumbs up if you get the opportunity. I know that Saboteur is in there, and if it might just be one of these things where if you can make it part of your system, when you come over, liking the show, giving it the thumbs up and sharing. Hopefully that'll be, it might just be what you have to do when you watch this show, because this guy is very difficult to shake. And yes. Yes, I have gotten texts from people who are like, yeah, don't you have a brother who's a lawyer? Yes, I do. And isn't Rumble? Yes, they're looking into it. And again, if you raise it up to a certain level, the interaction actually helps the show. So that's a good thing. Let's check out what everybody's got to say. We've got a lot going on. And don't forget, everybody, some of the few people who will be benefiting from this are the ones who have made arrangements with Russia for energy. So the Russians and the Chinese will be making arrangements. And in a couple minutes, I'll tell you about the Russians sending a tanker to Cuba. Let's see what's going on over at Rumble Land, everyone, and say hello. Hey, all right. Yeah, there you go. Texas Forever 01 says, go Russia. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And let's see, we've got a little bit higher. Gonzo Johnny. Yep. He says it's not hard. A real anarchist is someone who has enough principles to do what is right without needing some authority. And of course, then you get into the question of, if people are not good enough to handle their own lives, how can they be trusted to vote for an authority who's fallible like they are and will control everybody else? And now starts the game to try to get everybody to control the authority, right? Never start the authority system, and you've eliminated that problem of concentrating the evil, right? And Gonzo Johnny also says, and anarchy equals no one ruler, but even anarchy has rules. That's precisely right. Thank you, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. He says, so basically the inverted version of what 99.9% of people think what anarchy means. You got it, man. Absolutely right. And I think on a strictly Christian level, it requires anarchy. Anarchy is required and I think morally essential. Called for, mandatory, rather than answering to the state in a materialist world. So, okay, let's head on over and check out some more of this conversation to round this off. And then I've got the RT footage that I want to show you, and I think it's pretty important.
Exactly. Well, they are not considering because now it's a psycho killer mentality, Judge, and not only among those psycho killers of that death cult in West Asia, but inside the Trump administration. And Trump now is beyond the range and completely controlled by this psycho killer logic, especially because he's desperate. Everything that he tried backfired. He's cornered. There's no off-ramp. And this particular bombing of South Pars, which was obviously an Israeli initiative, cuts off any possibility of an off-ramp, which, by the way, did not exist until a few hours ago because the Iranians were over and over again. This is our list. We don't want a ceasefire. We want all U.S. military bases out of West Asia. We want reparations for everything that you caused against us. We want, and that was part of it started with 9 points, then 6 points, then it broke down to 3 main points. And of course, there is an extra point, which they mention over and over again, a solution for Lebanon. So a solution for Lebanon is inexorably linked to the Iranians agreeing to a ceasefire later on. For the moment, there are no off-ramps whatsoever. So Israel and Trump are betting on destroying the Iranian state, period. It's not about liberating the Strait of Hormuz anymore. We are one step beyond.
I don't disagree. And if you see what Israel is doing on the backside, while people are looking at what's going on over with Iran, they are wiping out hundreds of Lebanese people every few days, taking over more and more land, shelling it, bringing in tanks. They started doing that last week. We saw the footage. So he's right to talk about Lebanon as well. So yeah, I'm sorry I don't have better news, everybody. This is some serious stuff. All right, let's go with the RT coverage. Here we go.
Well, here's some unverified footage from southern Iran now, where a fire broke out at facilities at the South Pars gas field, reportedly after Israeli strikes. This caused the price of Brent crude to shoot up again, surpassing the $108 mark. South Pars is the world's largest natural gas field located in the central part of the Persian Gulf. The field is shared by Iran and Qatar, and it produces over 350 billion cubic meters of gas each year, more than the European Union's annual gas consumption level. A spokesperson for Qatar's foreign ministry called the reported attack a dangerous, irresponsible step.
The Israeli targeting of facilities linked to Iran's South Pars field, an extension of Qatar's North Field, is a dangerous and irresponsible step amid the current military escalation in the region. Targeting energy infrastructure constitutes a threat to global energy security, as well as to the peoples of the region and its environment.
The major escalation prompted Tehran to warn Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar to evacuate their energy facilities. This comes as Iran's two main gas importers, Turkey and Iraq, face serious consequences after the attack. Turkey imports 13% of its gas supplies from Iran annually. The figure is even higher for Iraq, standing at around 33 to 34%. Let's discuss all this now with our guest, Manuel Sarkis Hassasi.
All right, so I'll pause it there. And there is one other thing that I want to give to you as we talk about the United States policies and a few other major items like that. I want to go over into what the Russians are doing. And we got a little theme for you here, everybody. The Russians are taking a gambit. And remember how we heard that for 30 days, the United States was going to no longer blockade Russian energy? How beneficent of them, right? Yeah, all right, for 30 days, but only for ships that are on the water, smoke on the water. You know what I'm saying? That's right. Ships on the water, a Russian oil tanker. That's it. It's on its way to Cuba. So we get to talk about this. We get to speculate about Cuba itself, and we get to hear from none other than XTC.